under the Agenda section in the CPUC Utilities Supplier Diversity website. For better sound quality, all attendees except the panelists are muted. If you have any questions for the panelists, please use the Q&A WebEx function or box. With that, I would like to introduce our esteemed moderator, Dr. Pamela Williamson, President and CEO of Women Business Enterprise Council West, better known as WBEC-West. Pamela?
Thank you. I am so excited to be the moderator for this highly informative panel today on how to navigate contract opportunities with energy utilities. I want to start by having our panelists introduce themselves before we kick off with the questions. Sydney, do you mind starting the introductions?
Oh, no problem, Pamela. So first is CPUC for hosting this expo, and thank my esteemed colleagues for their participation. My name is Sydney Furbush. I'm the manager of supply diversity for San Diego Gas and Electric. And for most of you that know San Diego, we're one of the smaller energy utilities in California. So I just want to first just thank everyone for joining us at this event, and hopefully you gain some insight from all the information shared by all the various panelists. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you, Sydney. Terrance, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pamela. And I echo Sydney's remarks about my esteemed colleague, the CPUC, for putting together this event. I am Tarrance Frierson, Head of Supplier Diversity and Development at Southern California Edison. And we've been doing supplier diversity for 4 decades, very committed to engaging small and diverse business enterprises into our supply chain, and look forward to this conversation and sharing information about how to do business with Southern California Edison, but more importantly, how to leverage all the benefits of supplier diversity programs, not just at Southern California Edison, but at the other companies that are represented here on the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrance. Joe?
Good morning, everyone. Again, I echo what Terrance and Sydney have said. Really excited about being here this morning. I guess this is kind of the new normal that we have been going throughout the whole year with a lot of events. We haven't stopped putting on events. So I manage the supply diversity function at SoCalGas. Been around for a while. As Terrance has said, we've also been around for about 4 decades. Today, hopefully, we'll provide some insight to you on how to do business and be successful in doing business with the utility companies here, the joint utility companies. I think there's about 28 companies that part of the joint utilities, and hopefully, this will be bring some value to you and insight on how to do business with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Lili.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone today. I'm excited to be on this panel with my esteemed panelists. Lili Kwan, and I'm with Pacific Gas and Electric Company. Oops, something happened to my video. There we go. I'm a supplier diversity manager there. PG&E, as most of you are familiar with, is the gas and electric utility that provides safe, reliable, and affordable services to Central California all the way up through to the Oregon border in Northern California. I'm excited to participate and share some insights and information with the audience today.
Thank you. Thelma.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Thelma Lopez, and I am with Southwest Gas Corporation. Southwest Gas is a gas-only utility, and we service Arizona, Nevada, and parts of California. I am super excited to be on this panel with such heavy hitters. And we are small but mighty, and we hope to share some information that the people on this conference can find valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Tarrance mentioned a little bit earlier, we want this to be a conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off with the first question, but as panelists, please feel free to join in and add your opinions. So I'm going to toss this first question to Sydney. Can you describe your company's supply chain organization and include how supplier diversity fits within that organization?
All right, great question. So our supplier diversity group is a part of our supply management. So we're fully embedded within the organization. I can tell you my staff is a team of 4 individuals, 5 including myself. It's a mixture of advisors and project managers. And I typically have them organized by categories of spend. So I can tell you 2020 has been a pretty significant year for us. We're going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2 billion. And we estimate that we're going to spend somewhere well over $800 million with our diverse suppliers, much more spend than we have done in previous years. One of the key things that we do as we look at suppliers and try to find suppliers, especially during this time of COVID, we really depend on our relationships with our community-based organizations. We typically have various sourcing opportunities. We share that information with those CBOs. They provide their list to us of suppliers that meet some of those basic requirements. We also leverage highly the California Clearinghouse database to find suppliers. And we have our own internal list of databases where we have networked with many different suppliers, especially at this Expo, to find those small local businesses. One unique thing that we have done in the past, especially this year, we focus a lot on local small businesses. Our goal is to bring in those local companies. We have various forums, webinars to really seek out those areas of services that we need locally based. So Pamela, those are some of the key things that we do as an organization. And as much as we try to make adjustments and changes and pivots, we're always trying to reinvent ourselves and make sure that we're relevant.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to add about their company that might be different than what Sydney just shared?
I'll jump in here, Dr. Pamela, and talk about, so at Southern California Edison, very similar to San Diego Gas and Electric, supplier diversity is within what we call operational services and align very closely to our supply management organization. I report right directly into the Chief Procurement Officer. What I do want to share is, since we're talking about kind of the structure and how we can connect small and diverse businesses with opportunities. So we receive a lot of our opportunities directly from our colleagues, the contract managers and procurement. They give us what they are going to be buying, and then we leverage our relationships with a number of community-based and advocacy organizations to share that information and to support source suppliers who we can bring into that process. Another important thing about how to become discoverable to us is knowing that we use the Ariba platform. We don't have a separate portal for diverse suppliers. We use Ariba to log information on all suppliers who are doing business with us. And our contractor managers, they use that portal, if you will, to source suppliers for those opportunities. And again, another important point that Cindy made is when one key sourcing area is the supplier clearinghouse for us. If you are not certified through the supplier clearinghouse, we would highly, highly encourage you to do that, because most of us on here, I would say all of us on here, and at some of the other utilities, we really, really leverage the supplier clearinghouse database to look for suppliers to bring into the supply chain process.
Okay. Thelma and Lili, is there anything you want to add from your company's perspectives?
Sure. So at Southwest Gas,
Go ahead, Thelma.
our supplier diversity program is part of our diversity programs in general. So that includes our diversity and inclusion efforts. And we run a relatively small program. It's myself and another team member, and we partner with our internal stakeholders to bring opportunities to diverse businesses. And because we are a relatively small organization, we are able to, be connected with those various people that make the decisions within our organization. But as far as our structure is very similar to the other utilities, and we leverage heavily on the supplier clearinghouse, and also organizations that have their own databases of suppliers like WRMSDC, the WIB network. They have a great network of suppliers, and so we have various relationships with those organizations, and we rely heavily on their recommendations, and also the recommendations of our utility peers. If there's a good supplier, they'll share that information with us, and so we also have our own internal database, and when suppliers register as suppliers on our website, they go into that database, and also a source of diverse business supports.
Lili, I think you were going to add something.
I was. So at PG&E, I think similar to SDE and SoCal, our department reports up through our chief procurement officer, so we're embedded within the procurement organization. One interesting note is supplier diversity is part of one pillar of our department in supply chain responsibility, which includes supplier diversity, environmental sustainability for our supply chain, and ethical supply chain management, so managing our supplier code of conduct. So these three areas combined is what our department manages under supply chain responsibility. At PG&E, we also have a website where we post upcoming contract opportunities. Not all of them, but some of them we do post on the website, and you can easily just do a web search or go to www.pge.com/bid opportunities, and you can see if there are any upcoming bid opportunities that might match the type of work that you do for us.
Thank you. Joe.
Okay. So supply diversity is embedded like the other utilities in the supply chain, basically. Now, we recently went through a reorganization where now supply management, supply chain, and supplier diversity reports up to our Chief Administrative and Diversity Officer, which is a new position that was actually created in our company. I have a team of 5 of us all together. We also enlist champions in our program, which they exist throughout our company. We have approximately 34 champions right now. And with a team as small as my team, these champions actually help us reach out and find additional opportunities and can have far reaches into the company, different areas of the company that we may not always see or may not always be a part of. So that's sort of how our structure is formed. Again, this is somewhat new for us, reporting up to the Chief Diversity Officer, which now all the diversity functions actually report under this person, diversity and inclusion and supplier diversity, which I think is good.
Thank you. So it's important for potential suppliers to really understand where supplier diversity fits in. So thank you for sharing that, all of you. I think it's also really important for individuals to understand how they can market themselves, especially during the current public health crisis, where networking and relationships building opportunities are so limited. So Joe, I know I just ended with you, but I'm also going to ask that question to you, and I'm going to repeat it. And it's, how can a diverse supplier successfully market themselves, especially during the current public health crisis, where networking and relationship building opportunities are so limited right now?
Well, I would start off by saying certainly attend events like this. I think I mentioned earlier, this is the new normal in my opening comments. So we've put on a number of these types of virtual webinars throughout the year, and Throughout the year, we have various members from our company and from supply management talking about various opportunities and how to connect with us. So, and if there's, I would also say, there's not just one way to be recognized by our company through supplier diversity. There's other ways. If you can leverage any of the relationships that you may already have in place, certainly use those relationships. So I would say start off with being present at events like this. I assume at the end of this discussion that our contact information will be given out, or either I'll give my information out and my team's information out also on how to get in contact with us.
Okay. Selma, is there something you want to add about what's the best way for a company or a diverse supplier to market themselves to your organization?
You know, I agree with everything that Joe said. And it's interesting because at the start of the pandemic, everything just kind of got quiet. And for me, I thought that this was the perfect opportunity for diverse businesses to connect with the supplier diversity professionals. Because again, this is our new normal, and understanding how people want to receive communication and navigate through the different structures within the utilities. And so I think now is not the time to shy away. Now is the time to rethink your business and re-energize and start developing those connections and really just making sure that you make your presence known and providing information. If there's changes that you've done to your business to adapt to the new environment, let us know. I mean, it's unfortunate the situation that we're in, but it's also an opportunity.
Thank you. Lili, is there anything you'd like to add about the best way to market and connect right now?
I would, and it's something that some of the panelists mentioned in the previous question, and that is really think about now might be a good time if you're not already a member of a local community-based organization. Now might be a great time to join those networks, because a lot of them, Pam, like WBEC-West, like Western Regional Minority Supplier Development Council, are having a lot of events where there is networking and kind of meeting with with corporate partners. So there are a lot of community-based organizations that are hosting events where, even though it's virtual, there's still an opportunity to meet and get to know corporate partners as a diverse business. So I do recommend that if you're not currently engaged with or working with one of your local chambers or local community-based organizations that support the diverse business community, I highly recommend that. For me as well, I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. So if that is a place where you are also active and you have a lot of information about your company, I recommend send me a private chat, a private note through LinkedIn, and then we can connect that way as well.
Okay, perfect. So Sydney and Tarrance, there's been a lot of great suggestions provided, but I also want to give you two an opportunity to respond. Sydney, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think most of my colleagues kind of share some of the things that's important, but I can tell you for SDG&E, we're really trying to be available. I think a lot of folks, a lot of companies out there that try to connect with the organizations, they don't know where to start. And I think for a lot of cases, if you can find ways to get to supplier diversity, we'll navigate you to whether it's various forums that we have, if there's sourcing opportunities. As one of my colleagues mentioned, working with the CBOs is important. I can tell you, as much as things have changed, we had to also pivot and make a lot of adjustments. So we're learning along the way, as a lot of our suppliers are what's the best ways to connect. So I would, echo what my colleague said, leverage all the various technologies, all the different network sources, and really find the right place to connect with these various corporations, because we're working it just as hard as you are to make sure that we are available and accessible. And, we will be making certain adjustments. I can tell you, coming up this year for SDG&E, The work that we're going to be doing in our annual report is also going to be another tool, another source for you to learn how better to work with us. So just stay tuned as things continue to change, but we're here and we're available for you.
Tarrance.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela. I echo many of the things that my colleagues have already said. One thing that I would suggest suppliers give consideration to is some of those other organizations that you may be part of. So we are doing a lot of things that are focused around the environment. And so we have relationships with a variety of other types of organizations. And those may be areas that you're passionate about, and you may be engaged in those areas. That could be a great way to learn about things that we are doing, other places that we are engaged and where our priorities align with other organizations. And if you happen to be a part of that organization, you might run into an Edison person who is part of that organization. Leverage that opportunity to build the relationship, because as my colleague said, relationships are key to business and getting business done. It could be a great way that you get access to information, learn about the different projects or programs that we have underway aligned to our clean energy future journey that we're on. So while we fully support and we're aligned to our supplier diversity, advocacy, and community-based organizations like WBEC-West, don't lose sight of those other organizations that may be aligned to our business priorities as well.
Thank you, Tarrance. And I absolutely love that suggestion, because it's so powerful to be able to look at something that you might have a passion for just personally, not really even within your business realm, and merge that together and still be able to build your network in your business. So I love that suggestion. So we've talked a little bit about marketing, how a diverse supplier could market. We talked about how they can build relationships. And so as valuable as building relationships are, we also know it's extremely important for them also to develop and to build capacity. So Tarrance, I ended with you. I'm also going to start with you with this question. And this question is, technical assistance and capacity building programs are offered by most of the utilities participating in GO 156. Discuss what your company is doing that is different to engage diverse suppliers outside of those programs. And so I'm going to highlight and underline the word different. And then I'm going to have each one of you respond, but I'm going to start with Tarrance.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela. And I really do appreciate this question. If any of our attendees or participants today have heard me speak at other events or forums, development, supplier development is like a cornerstone, a pillar, a major pillar of our program. And we've been doing it formally for about 10 years. And so right now we are taking a fresh new look at our program. It's structured into 3 kind of development tracks. One being business education workshops. And that's really about those general business, like the back end office, building a capability statements. How do you negotiate a contract? We then have a mentoring program that is really centered around currently looking at suppliers in our supply chain and how we really act intentionally about either expanding that relationship or into other areas of the business or into the area of the business that they're already operating, and helping them grow that way. And then leveraging our scholarship component. But as I said, we're taking a fresh new look at that component. We've also been talking a lot about new rules of engagement, and where we have opportunities to create space to bring visibility to the expertise or the capabilities of small and diverse businesses. So we will negotiate in our sponsorships. Sometimes we don't need to be the person that's, presenting in a breakout session. And so we're advocating for our small and diverse businesses to be the panelist in a breakout session or to be the moderator. So it's an opportunity for them to build up certain skills, but to bring visibility to what their companies are doing, to highlight their capabilities, to highlight their capacity to work with the companies who are in the room and to share information about the companies that they may already be doing some of these things with. Other things that we are doing is, again, creating space to bring greater visibility. We, this year, in light of the pandemic, we've thought a lot about how do we make sure that suppliers can stay visible. And so we entered into a partnership with an organization called Beyond TV to help tell the stories of small and diverse businesses and to put that in a social media space. They have a great following. They have a local TV station. So we took an opportunity to highlight the good work that small and diverse businesses are doing for us or doing throughout our service area. So just new ways of engagement, how we connect, how we support small and diverse businesses, how we highlight them. And especially when they are suppliers of ours, because I think that's a great way to endorse our small and diverse businesses.
Thank you, Tarrance. That's amazing. Joe, what about for you guys? You might be on mute.
I would say a lot of the things that Tarrance mentioned in his technical assistance, we certainly do in our program also. One of the areas that we have had a focus on for some years, I'll say about 8 or 9 years, is our SCORE program. We provide technical assistance. SCORE stands for Smaller Contractor Opportunities Realization Effort, which is a focus on small businesses with revenues of $5 million or less and up to about 25 employees. So we conduct a lot of our SCORE boot camps in-house. And with SCORE, basically, these are contractors, smaller contractors that have contracts with us currently, but we want to take them to the next stage. And then the other type of technical assistance, as Tarrance mentioned, how to prepare for an RFP, how to your back office, how to prepare your back office and doing business with us. Understanding our culture also is very important. Now, one of the things that I'm very proud of that we are embarking on in 2021 is developing business incubators with a couple of EDCs around town here, where we've looked hard and deep into areas where there are a lot of diverse suppliers. So if we can't find them, then our position is, well, let's develop them. So we are putting together a program that will actually provide technical assistance, the classroom part, along with some of our largest prime contractors to mentor these programs and provide subcontracting opportunities to bring these and to start developing these suppliers in the areas like pipeline construction and those areas that are very rare and don't have a lot of diverse suppliers in those.
Okay, that's great. So I have a question. For that program, are you reaching out to potential suppliers, or can suppliers say, hey, I know there's a shortage here?
We're looking for suppliers that may somewhat already be in the construction. It's not a startup program for suppliers, but may already have construction experience, but can bridge over into this specialty area of pipeline construction.
Okay, great. And if
so
there are
ongoing business, but we want to expand their areas and bring them over into the specialized area.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Sydney,
That was me too, Dr. Pamela. I was just going to, if I could just jump in really quickly and underscore Joe's point about really taking that focus on developing technical capabilities, seeing where suppliers have capabilities or skills that are transferable to other areas, and how we then can programs that are already existing, maybe through scholarship opportunities, say, okay, we want to afford the opportunity for you to send, one or two people of your team to this training class around very technical capabilities, around new innovation or whatever it is in a space that can help expand their capacity or the capabilities in other areas. Almost like thinking about it through a trainer. If I can train one or two of yours, how then do they bring what they've learned back to your organization? And where that is beneficial to a supplier, when we're underwriting, that's less of an overhead cost for a business. And especially when you think about in these COVID times, when you have to make some difficult decisions about where you're spending your money. So those are some things we're also looking at, but really, again, focusing on how are we developing those technical capabilities. The general business course things we will continue to do, but how our industry is really changing, we really need to focus in on those technical capabilities.
I think that's extremely powerful. And also, not is it powerful, it makes real change within the small businesses that are able to take advantage of that opportunity. So thank you both for sharing that. Sydney, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, there's one or two key things I want to kind of add. One of the things that we're starting to see in the utility industry is that we're getting into a lot of new areas that a lot of our suppliers may not be aware of. I can tell you both Edison, PG&E, and also San Diego Gas and Electric, we're doing a lot of work on our wildfire mitigation. And that's a lot of dollars spent in that space, but a lot of suppliers don't know what that truly means. So we're putting on a lot of webinars just to educate suppliers on all the different things that we're doing, all the new technologies that are needed, and all the other types of areas that we typically haven't been in that we're actually starting to move on right now, and how those suppliers can start getting ready and prepared for it. Additionally, we have a lot of new requirements, especially in the areas of safety and insurance. So some of those things require suppliers to make certain levels of investment or even prepare their organizations to get them more training or even put together different plans. So we try to, especially this year, help educate suppliers on all those new requirements that we have. And then one last item is that for a lot of work, especially in the electric area, a lot of our new suppliers, we typically want them to work with our prime suppliers. So when we're talking about education, mentoring, developing, we count on our prime suppliers to partner with us to help develop these smaller companies, grow, develop, increase their capability, and also reduce some of their risk. So, one of the things as companies come to us and they suggest, how can we actually get involved in doing work for SDG&E? Sometimes we work with them to connect them with some of our prime suppliers. And that has been just a tremendous opportunity for those suppliers to start to grow and really start on the right foot to learn what are those key things they need to be prepared for to ensure that they have a sustainable relationship with SDG&E.
Thank you. I want to give Lili an opportunity and also Thelma. So I'm going to start with Lili.
Great. Thank you, Pam. So I do want to add on to kind of what everyone else has said in terms of PG&E. We have unique technical assistance program signature initiatives that we launch every year that focus on certain key topics. So one thing that Sydney just mentioned was, all of the utilities are really focused on risk management these days. So based on that, some of the topics that we've developed trainings on, where we work with third-party subject matter experts to roll out training, are areas like cybersecurity. All of our suppliers that we want to work with have to go through a third-party cybersecurity review to identify whether or not there are any risks that they are bringing into PG&E system as our supplier. We've also developed some new disaster preparedness training for small and diverse businesses as well. In all of California and much of the world, wildfire safety is huge now. That on top of earthquakes, kind of all these different extreme weather events that are caused by climate change. We felt like disaster preparedness was an important topic to bring to small and diverse businesses. So we have some training around that now as well. We also have some training around sustainability and how to grow your own environmental sustainability program. And we offer that to diverse businesses as well. And then like what some of the other utilities have mentioned, we also have a 4-part strategic sourcing training and education series where we educate about all aspects of the strategic sourcing process, because trying to demystify that for small and diverse businesses that may not be as familiar with kind of how a lot of large corporations manage their sourcing. And then one thing that we've worked on that hopefully we'll implement by the end of this year, early next year, is with the COVID crisis and with kind of this focus on staying at home, virtualizing learning, we are bringing a lot of our training into a virtual learning management system platform. So we're hoping, we've developed a lot of different modules, worked with a third party to really record speakers and content, and we want to provide that and make that available to the small and diverse business community on our website. So we're hoping to roll that out with a number of modules, as I mentioned, in cybersecurity, disaster preparedness. We'll have one around how to future-proof your business. So look for that in the coming next for us to roll out, but it'll be asynchronous learning. So you'll go to this website, you'll be able to click on these different modules and watch videos, learn, take quizzes, and then assess, have some kind of take-home checklist that you can take with you after your training to implement within your own company. So we're excited to roll that out.
That is exciting. So thank you for sharing that. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
So at Southwest Gas, we don't have a formal capacity building assistance program, but what we do offer is a one-on-one connection with those different groups that where the diverse businesses want to connect with. You know, we help them navigate through our Southwest Gas utility space, and we provide individual coaching and introductions to our internal business units. And it's really important, though, that suppliers understand their business so that they can help those supplier diversity professionals connect them with the right people, especially within our organization. And, you know, one thing I do want to mention is, you know, we, because our program is small, we rely heavily on our external business partners to provide that capacity assistance for diverse. I think it was Lili who mentioned, you know, the value of those organizations like WBEC and WBEC and, you know, all those other, the various chambers of commerce. You know, it's, you know, they provide assistance with, you know, RFPs and, you know, other types of programs. And so for Southwest Gas, we rely heavily on our partners to help us with that.
Okay, thank you. And so I'm going to move on to the next question. And this one is actually something that's we get called a lot about. So I think that nowadays when a supplier connects with a supplier diversity professional or even sometimes with a buyer, a lot of times they're told to be more innovative. And so I was wondering if each of the panelists have an example of innovation. So I'm going to frame that as a question. So can you share some examples of how suppliers can be more competitive or how they can differentiate differentiate themselves in your supply chain to be more innovative? And Elma, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you, Dr. Pam. So innovation can mean different things to different people. And to me, it's, offering those creative solutions to different problems. And the example that, I want to share is really, at the start of the pandemic when everybody was, looking for PPE supplies, PPE equipment, we had some suppliers who typically didn't provide PPE that stepped up and said, hey, I have relationships with my suppliers across the world. And I may be a marketing company or I may be a catering business, but I have access to gloves, to masks, to hand sanitizer. And again, because of their global supply chains, their own global supply chains, they were able to provide us and help us in that situation. And so because they were small and diverse, they were able to quickly adapt to the situation at hand and really help us out when we needed that help. And so, that was the kind of innovation that was just, it was valuable, especially in the situation that we were in. So, but again, innovation can mean different things to different people, and I'll let my colleagues share, maybe some of their success stories as well.
Thank you. Sydney, would you like to share one?
Yes, I will. I can tell you during COVID, it required our company and also especially my department to quickly change to still be relevant, but also to continue to connect with suppliers. We had to quickly learn different technologies and put those in place. So we looked at some of the companies, the smaller businesses that offer unique training, especially in Microsoft Teams, because that's one of the platforms that we use, but also tools that we would use to ensure that we can continue to have webinars or having different types of networking opportunities. So we put out a quick request and got a few companies to give us that type of training when we start looking at innovation. So, kind of going back and echoing what my colleagues are saying is that sometimes new innovation, new products, new services, they're needed at a different point in time. So you never know. You have to look at what's occurring during that time period. And if you have something that you can tweak, that you can offer to satisfy that need, those things become, readily available. Similar to what was said before, we looked at some of our suppliers just to help us with PPE early along in the process. And I know a lot of companies out there were offering different types of PPE, but for the utility company, what's important is that we have certain types of standards and requirements. And once you understand what we truly need and you can offer that unique service, for the most part, that same service is required throughout the whole utility industry. So I would say is look at the utility group very uniquely because there are certain types of tools, services and products that we all can share. So sometimes that may be one of those opportunities in a lifetime that you just satisfying a large need just in a utility group because we are a very unique set of corporations that have a certain skill set and a certain type of demand that may be quite different from a lot of general purpose types of things that's out there.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking at a specific industry, but you're looking across all of the actors in that industry. So that's brilliant, actually.
Thank you.
Jeff, do you have any, can you share a story about innovation?
Well, I'll say that, with innovation, what innovation means to me is it's not necessarily technology. It can be technology. But to me, it means new, effective, and efficient ways of doing business, thinking outside the box, basically. It can be as simple as the way a company may communicate with us, provide status updates. I remember one company that started providing this unique dashboard that typically we would have to go back and ask questions, but in this dashboard, this one dashboard they had all the statistics and all the information that we needed in one look and everything. So I think things like that are very innovative. It's things that make you stand out above or and beyond what the other businesses are doing or how they're communicating or the processes that they're providing for us.
Thank you. Tarrance.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela. And like my colleagues have said, you know, innovation takes on a number of different meanings. But the two examples that I think about, and I've talked about one of them before, is there was a supplier. We have a campus, and there's a busy road that separates some of our buildings. And so the company had decided we're going to put a bridge in for safety. You know, we would rather for our folks to walk across the bridge to the other, so then we can cut down on the amount of traffic that's having to cross this busy street. And, you know, there were, you know, requirements around the permitting. There were concerns around the community of shutting the street down, when this construction was going to happen, how disruptive it was going to be. And we had a supplier that, a minority-owned business, Native American-owned business, that came to us and said, you know, engineering company, we have an idea where we can, you know, address some of those concerns of the community and really support you, Edison, as a supplier partner, and brought us a solution where they could really assemble the bridge off-site. And it came in almost like these just two pieces. And so they did all of the most of the construction that didn't require shutting down the street for multiple days and all of those things, and helped us get this bridge installed in a limited amount of time, address the community concerns, and it came in under budget. And so that was innovative to say, you know, just one might say, all they did was assemble it off-site. Well, yeah, but assembling off-site addressed a lot of concerns for us that we really were not thinking about in terms of assembling off-site. We were like, we're going to have to do this, we're going to shut down the street, and we're going to have to go through all these other processes. Something more recent, and as Joe said, it can just be simple stuff to just make doing business a little easier or more efficient. You know, we had a supplier that brought ideas around an app and how we can integrate an app into how we're doing various events and outreach and connecting with the communities and sharing information, cutting down on the amount of paper that we have to print. That's the printing cost that goes down, being able to store the documents in the app, allowing the participant to have access and to go in there whenever they want to get it and search, and just the convenience in that. And being able to align it across different areas of our business. So where our business customer division started using it for some of their events, they brought it to us, the supplier, and said, hey, this is how BCD is using it. Perhaps supplier diversity could use it, and you do outreach events, you do technical assistance training and all these things, and it becomes this one-stop place for our constituents and, you know, ease of interacting with us. And so those are my examples, and they're just the simple stuff.
Thank you. Lili.
Thank you. So I have two examples that kind of bring to light what Joe and Tarrance were saying, one of which is around, like, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be some technological innovation. So this example is a women-owned business that does a lot of heavy civil construction for us related to roads, bridges, dams, canals, that kind of stuff. And so I think last year or the year before, there were a lot of pretty big and significant storms in Northern California, and this particular supplier supports us in the far north, and they helped us during those and after those storms to remove thousands of yards of debris within a week, to help us to access and regain critical access to some of our critical generation facilities. So this is something that they do. We've been working with them for 20 plus years. Well, we recently had some conversations with them about kind of thinking of how to do business and work with us more sustainably. And so as a part of that discussion, they brainstormed and said, hey, you know what, all these excess materials that we're, dumping and taking away from these sites, we don't necessarily need to haul them off site. Let's take this excavated soil, recycled boulders, and remove this asphalt that we're removing. And instead of hauling them off site, let's reuse that content in the soil in the areas where the road shoulders need widening, or if they need to refill excavation. They took the rock that they kind of compiled from kind of this work to use as curbing on the steep roads to protect people from driving off the road. And so as a result, approximately 90% of the removed asphalt was recycled for reuse on the road. So they helped us with a couple of things: cost savings, reduced the cost of hauling all of this off-site and dumping it, sustainability, took all this material and reused it for the roads to make them safer. And, you know, they also, I think, excavated and had to take out some trees, and they ended up using some of those trees as mulch for on-site erosion control. So ideas like that, like thinking about what do you do normally? How can you do something a little differently? If sustainability is important, and I think it is important to all of us, how can I do my work more sustainably? So that's one example of a diverse business that really thought outside the box and helped us be more sustainable, more cost effective, and more efficient. Another example that I have is one where it is kind of focused around technology. So there was another diverse supplier, a Hispanic American-owned business that's also located here in Northern California that we've been working for a long time. They specialize in restoring, repairing structural concrete with an emphasis on heavy civil construction. And so they identified and figured out a new way to replace concrete foundations at some of our substations. So the old process was to kind of build a concrete collar around the existing foundation, pour concrete, and then take away the other materials and replace and kind of rebuild that foundation. So what they did was they developed a new process to use fiberglass wrapping to wrap around the concrete foundations, and then repair and kind of repair the concrete foundation, saving money, saving time. Kind of what we called it is kind of Botox for concrete foundations, is this injection process. And so by saving us time, they did a pilot project for us, saved more than 50 hours, avoided the concrete pouring of over 300 cubic feet of concrete, which is equivalent to nearly 55 bathtubs full of concrete. So another innovative kind of method that a supplier supported us. So doesn't have to be big. Rely on what your core business is and think about how to look at things differently.
I loved your in summary, because in my head, I was about to say the same thing. So thank you. So this next question, I said the other question was my favorite. This question actually just brings me joy. And it brings me joy because I probably get asked this question about certification at least, like 5 or 6 times a day. So Lili, I'm going to start with you for this question. As advocates for diverse suppliers, share some examples of how best to leverage supplier diversity to better connect, network, and navigate the landscape of your organization. So to say that a different way, which is, how do they leverage you guys?
I think there are a couple of ways to do that. So I think first and foremost, it's really important that as a diverse business, you know that we're here as advocates to support you and to identify opportunities and to introduce you to decision makers where it makes sense and where you have the capabilities to support. So it's really important that you're developing those relationships over time, and that you are getting to know and working with the supplier diversity managers and advocates within all of the utilities early, and that you create, especially if you're a current supplier for PG&E, SCE, SoCalGas, you know, make sure that you're checking in regularly and you have a regular cadence for managing your relationship with your supplier diversity advocate. It's just as important to know your supplier diversity manager as it is for you to know your business contact or whoever is the decision maker that you're working with at that company, because when issues do arise, your supplier diversity advocate can support you at the company and help you navigate whatever internal processes or address certain issues that might come up that maybe your business contact won't have kind of a global perspective on. As it relates to prospective suppliers, supplier diversity advocates also have insight into upcoming opportunities before they're often publicized. So it's important that even if you don't work with, you know, the company yet, that you keep in contact and you maintain regular connection with our supplier diversity managers on this panel and within the other utilities as well. I also want to say that supplier diversity managers often have visibility into additional resources that can support you as a diverse business. They have visibility into cross-business unit opportunities. So if you as a supplier are working at PG&E, for example, electric operations, we might have visibility into some gas opportunities, gas operations opportunities that relate to the work that you do, and we can refer you over there. So there's a lot more that supplier diversity managers and advocates can support diverse businesses on that maybe just having their own business contact and doing the day-to-day wouldn't identify. Supplier diversity managers also, we all have supplier development programs as well. So knowing your supplier diversity manager can gain you access to resources, to executive mentors, to cross-functional teams to support your growth and development. So a lot of opportunities and advantages for maintaining kind of relationships with your supplier diversity advocates and managers.
Thank you. Tarrance, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'm just going to say everything that Lili said, because I absolutely agree with it. I couldn't have said it any better. The only thing that I might add is, you know, I can say this for all my colleagues here on this phone, that, you know, while our primary focus is the supply chains and the business value to our organizations, each of us are very passionate advocates and champions of small and diverse business enterprises. And that commitment goes beyond our supply chain or beyond our company's priorities, because we recognize that we may not be buying what a particular business is selling at the time, or we may not buy that at all. But we understand the value of small and diverse businesses to the economy. And so we have relationships. We have relationships in our industry, outside our industry, at many other companies, and that's an opportunity to leverage that network, that relationship, to make connections other places. And so, you know, I may know of someone at another company in another industry that may be buying what you're selling at the moment, and that may be an opportunity for me to make that connection for you.
Thank you, Tarrance. So Lili and Tarrance did such a great job answering that question. So I'm not going to go through each of you, but I do want to just give an opportunity if you want to add something to go ahead and do so, because I think this next question is probably the one that the audience is probably going to be the most wild about and want to hear and spend time with. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to add on to how to leverage supplier diversity within your operations?
Well, I just want to echo one thing that Tarrance said. We do collaborate with each other quite a bit. So there may not be an opportunity at our company at the time, maybe something over at Tarrance's company or Sydney's company. We collaborate quite a bit throughout the year.
Okay, before I move on, I'm going to just give one more chance for anybody yet. Okay, so we are at the 11:02 mark. I know that we wanted to leave some time for Q&A, but there's just one question that I just feel like I have to ask in order to be the best moderator I can. So Joe, I'm going to start with you, then I'm going to ask everyone else to respond. And the question is, what are your organization's top buying categories that you are looking for now? What contracting opportunities are available to diverse suppliers currently? You're on mute, my friend.
I mean, we purchase everything from small boats all the way to pipe, you know, and this happens throughout the year. We have a lot of activity right now in facility services, yard cleaning, janitorial services is coming up. In our fleet area, there are some opportunities coming up in that area in retrofitting some of our vehicles. We also have trucking opportunities that exist at SoCalGas, and there's a number of subcontracting opportunities with our primes that continue to be open all the time. So I would say, if whatever service you have, you know, contact us. And, you know, it's very fluid. You know, things go up and down with the utilities. There may be a time when we may be purchasing a lot of pipe at one time, and then there's a down period of that. So the opportunity may not exist today, but the thing about contacting and reaching out to us, although that opportunity may not exist today, we keep you in mind. And at SoCalGas, we do put you on a list potential suppliers when things come up. And then when things come up, sometimes things may come up in a couple of days. Well, we need the supplier for this. How soon can you get a supplier? They'll come up like that. So if you're on that list and if you've reached out to us and we, you know, we remember you, and from the conversation we've had with you, you know, you're going to get called back for an interview or something.
Thank you. Sydney.
So this is a great question. I think for SDG&E, very similar to a lot of my other colleagues, we're working on a lot of infrastructural projects. You know, a lot of the work that we're doing right now, a lot of money is spent is in the gas and electric construction area. So, you know, you name it, whether it's actually doing some of the work for us on that construction project, or providing the pipes, the wires, the cabling, all the equipment that's needed. You know, we also have a lot of new opportunities in the IT space. So there's a lot of new IT software solutions that's coming about. And, you know, with COVID, it has really changed the way our utility kind of looks at our supply chain and what's happening. Some of the suppliers that we have used traditionally in the past, they're also working with many other companies, and what's happening is that supply is actually not available. So now we have to look at other resources, other sources out there that typically we would not have done in the past. So once you understand that the overall scope of what we're trying to get accomplished, there's so many opportunities in those various spaces that we have typically gone to those same types of vendors. Now we're looking at other sources. So it's so important for suppliers to reach out to us so they understand what are those things that we need now different from what we did in the past, and we can help direct them to those key spaces that are unique, and they can support us. So there's a lot of opportunities right now. And like I said, again, electric construction, gas construction is probably our biggest areas of spend. But, you know, as Joe had mentioned, there's so many other spaces. We're buying tons of vehicles right now and making sure that we're compliant with CARB. So that's another opportunity in that space. So I'm excited about this year and excited about the years in the future. So, you know, this is a good time for suppliers with the utility industry.
Lili.
Yeah, so similar to what Sydney was saying, a lot of our work is focused on system hardening right now. So what that would include areas like, you know, we're tapping diverse suppliers for drone inspections to find risk across our territory. We're doing risk assessments on our transmission structures. We're replacing wood poles with poles made of sturdier, more durable materials. And we're hardening more than 200 miles of electric infrastructure with coated wire and underground lines. And then, of course, to kind of address wildfire safety management, we're also working on installing microgrid technology in key remote areas. So there's all of that encompasses, you know, a lot of the electric and gas transmission and distribution construction work that we'll need support on. With wildfire season coming to an end, there's a lot of emergency restoration work that we're finalizing and finishing up. And then there are a couple of large and complicated transformer replacement projects that we're working on. So a lot of work on kind of core business infrastructure work.
Thank you. Tarrance.
You know, I will follow Lili any day because she answered the question perfectly. So I don't want to take up any more time by duplicating what she said. And, you know, I know we're going to have audience Q&A, so I'm going to yield my time back to you.
Thelma, do you have anything you'd like to add?
So a lot of what we do is the installation of gas pipelines, maintenance. We have a lot of projects as it relates to infrastructure replacement. And so the services that we're looking for are really related to that type of work. And, you know, just to echo what Joe said, there may not be an opportunity right now, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be an opportunity in the future. And so really what, you know, if there's anything that I want to preach is patience. Sometimes, you know, we need a little bit of patience, you know, from the business community, and really, you know, just stay connected, because again, there may not be an opportunity now, but the staying connected and building that relationship is really important.
Okay, well, thank you. Before I pass it on to Drisha to manage the Q&A section, I just want to thank CPUC for allowing me to be the moderator today. And I also just want to thank the panelists, because I think you provided some really thoughtful information to the attendees. We covered from, you know, just from the start of how to get connected all the way down to what are the opportunities within utilities today. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. So Drisha, I am going to hand it off to you for Q&A.
Okay, so majority of the questions that we received were regarding networking with supplier diversity in order to get into those supply chains. I know you touched on it a little bit, but if everyone can share what is the best way for a diverse supplier to network with your organization to possibly get a contract opportunity. I think that was probably the bulk of the 98 questions we received. And by the way, thanks to some of you on the panel, you were answering the questions as well as they were coming in. But that was the top question that's being asked. There were people who stated that they've been certified, they've been trying to get contract opportunities. And so if anyone can share a best practice with our audience, that would be appreciated.
Hey, Drisha, this is Sydney. I can kind of give you an idea about what San Diego Gas is doing. COVID has really made it very challenging for a number of suppliers to connect with us. And what we're trying to do is be as accessible as possible. So what I would suggest for suppliers that want to know more about what we do is, you know, first send us your capability statement. I posted my email address out there. You can send it to me directly, and I'll pass it to one of my advisors or one of my project managers to assess what information that your company is doing and see if it meets some of the requirements that we have for any projects. The challenge is, if you can imagine, we get, you know, hundreds of folks trying to access, you know, us at different points of time. And typically what we try to do is to bring folks into these opportunities as those opportunities come available. So we may not reach back out to you immediately, But what we will do is answer the questions that you have for us. But once you're in our database, once we understand what your company offers, when those opportunities do come about, we have symposiums where we bring those suppliers into the process. And if we already have your capability information, we can actually get you connected much quicker to those opportunities. So at least for SDG&E, that's what we're trying to do. And you know, it may not be the best opportunity, at least on the short term, but that's what we're trying to do right now during this COVID time period.
Let me say also.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. You know, let me say also that we hold a number of events. The way to market yourself, as certainly contact us, like Sydney mentioned earlier. But we do hold a number of events throughout the year. Meet the Primes. We do supplier showcases. In 2021, we will have a number of supplier showcases. And these showcases are, if there's a huge project that's coming down the pipeline, we will look at suppliers in this particular area and invite them. It could be 5, 6, maybe 7, even 10 suppliers in to showcase their capabilities to either the project managers or the primes and provide more detailed information about their company than you would normally have in a matchmaking event. And then we also will be holding a number of Meet the Prime events. These are great ways to really market your company and get your company in front of us and in front of some of the project managers and the senior people at some of our prime companies also.
I'll jump in here and I'll echo what my colleague said. Just add that it really, for us at Edison, it depends, or I would encourage you to think about what are we buying or what are we sourcing at the time in terms of how you best manage your interaction or engagement with us. You know, like the capability overview meetings that Joe mentioned that they do, we typically do those when we know there's an upcoming opportunity and we're trying to get the supplier in front of some of the decision makers as we're developing those bid lists. So trying to be a little more strategic about it and proactive up front. If we're not purchasing what you are selling at the time, because there's so many things that are happening and that our teams are balancing, we may not immediately respond on something that we're not actively sourcing or purchasing at the time. So I would be thoughtful about understanding what are our needs at the moment, and that is something we are truly transparent about. We have these needs right now. We're not doing these needs right now. But when we have opportunities, to many of my colleagues' points earlier, we remember suppliers. You know, it may pop up, just an ad hoc opportunity. Someone say, oh, and then it's like, oh, I remember that supplier. Let's reach out to them and see if they would be interested in bidding in those opportunities. Sometimes our prime suppliers will say, hey, I made a subcontracting commitment to you, and I'm looking to get some subcontractors engaged in these areas. Can you help us? And we will leverage our relationships with organizations like WBEC-West and others to again, start doing that outreach or remember those suppliers that we've met at different events. So that's what I would offer to you, is just to really think about what is going on in terms of our purchasing needs at the time.
I would just echo what my colleagues have just said, and just add that, you know, we try to be as transparent as possible, and really, you know, that I think, my advice to diverse businesses is understand the organizations that you're trying to do business with, understand what their needs are so that you can be strategic in aligning the customer's needs to what you can offer as a diverse business, and really just reach out to the supplier diversity professionals and gain their trust and really educate them on the value of what your organization can bring to the different utilities.
Did anyone have anything else they wanted to offer? Okay, it seems like we're a little bit off schedule. It's 10:15 was the end of this panel discussion. I have provided my email. Also, it's on the Whova website. If anyone has any additional questions, a lot of people have asked me for the utility contact information. Email me. I will send that over as soon as the program is done today. Thank you all for being here. Pamela, do you want to have some final comments before we end the session?
Tricia?
Yes, Tarrance.
Would you mind if I just actually want to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. Pamela and WBEC-West for all of the great work that they do. We really do, and I know I can speak for all my colleagues here, we appreciate the partnership with you in advancing opportunities for small and diverse business enterprises, more specifically women-owned businesses. So thank you and your team, and thank you for being such a great moderator today.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, Trisha. I heard your question, and I could not unmute my line. So
Okay.
I just want to, again, just thank everyone. I think the information was so valuable, and during this time, information is always queen. I will not say king, but it's always queen. And so I think the more information suppliers have, the better decisions they're able to make and they're able to grow. And so I want to thank the panelists for being so transparent and being so clear in their answers. I truly appreciate it. And I know that everyone that was on the webinar today appreciated it. So thank you. And as always, it is my pleasure to serve. And our whole goal at WBEC-West is to connect women-owned businesses to opportunities. So we wouldn't be able to do that without CPUC or without the great corporations we work with every day. So thank you for this opportunity again.
I agree with Tarrance. Thank you so much, Pamela, and the rest of the panelists. I work with you all the time, and it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed this panel. I took a lot of notes myself, so I can address some of the questions that I'll receive in email. And I look forward to the next two panelists tomorrow. And I would encourage everyone to visit the exhibit booths. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up. I answer all my emails. And thank all of you again for participating.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Drisha.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again,
Welcome.
Pamela. And thanks, Basie.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Drisha, Basie.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.